Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Alicia from Alicia Be Creative, and in today's tutorial we are doing yet another fall inspired tumbler. This time we are doing a peekaboo style tumbler, which I have done on my channel before, but I absolutely love doing peekaboos when it comes to leaves and pumpkins, and when it comes to snowflakes when we get to wintertime as well. They're just a lot of fun to do with all those different elements of those seasons. So of course, everything that I talk about and use in today's tutorial will be listed and linked in the description box below. You'll also find some discount codes as well as links to all of my social media and my Facebook group, LBC Community. So lastly, of course, if you love today's tutorial, give this video a huge thumbs up as well as subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you know when I post my next video. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's tutorial. Okay, so let's get started. I am using a 20-ounce skinny today from makerflo crafts. I am sanding my cup and then I'll spray it with rubbing alcohol and wash and dry with my paper towel until dry so we can move on to the next steps. So I'm using Tack It Over and Over, which I use in my Galaxy cup tutorial, which I will link right here. And I am just with a thick paintbrush, I am applying a very thin coat of the Tack It Over and Over. So Tack It Over and Over is different from the traditional Tack It that comes in like the gold brown bottle. This is meant to remain tacky on your cup when you apply it. It's not like the traditional Tack It, which is a more glue form and will dry. So it's important that you make sure you get the white bottle of Tack It Over and Over and not the brown or gold bottle. So I'm just going to apply the Tack It in a very thin layer on my cup, making sure that I don't have any weird streaks or lines, which won't really matter, but it is important when you are applying Tack It Over and Over for either glitter application or applying other things that obviously your coat of Tack It Over and Over is nice and thin. Now I'm taking some foil flakes. I have silver, gold, and bronze here, and now that my Tack It has completely dried, I have waited about 5 or so minutes until my cup was tacky to the touch. So you're going to want to make sure that your Tack It still isn't wet, but it's kind of sticky when you touch it. And I'm just going to use these different colored foil flakes that I got from Sugar and Spice Glitter Co., and I will link those down below. And I'm just going to randomly apply these flakes into different sections all over the cup. The goal is to cover the entire cup in the foil flakes with the 3 different colors, adding some texture and dimension to the cup. Now, I didn't base paint my cup, as you noticed, because I knew that I was going to be going in with the foil flakes, and obviously I didn't really need to add a base coat because the goal of using the foil flakes is to cover the entirety of the cup. The other option that you have here, if you don't have foil flakes on hand or don't want to purchase those, is you could just as easily take gold, metallic, silver, and bronze colored spray paint and spray paint your cup in different sections, kind of mixing the different colors and kind of making it like a splotchy mix of color on your cup and still get the same effect. I did just prefer to use the foil flakes just because it's something I had on hand. I was looking to add some texture and dimension to the cup, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to use a craft supply I already had and give my cup exactly what I thought that it needed to give it that little extra oomph. So I'm going to finish completely covering this cup. This does take a little bit of time and it is a little bit messy. You definitely will get foil flakes all over the place and certainly make quite a bit of mess on your table. But in the end, it is really a very beautiful kind of mess of color here. I do love these 3 metallic colors together. They really do just create such a unique look that I think is just something you can't always capture when you're using spray paint. So your cup should look something like this once you are completely done. After I put away all the extra flakes, I'm then just taking a dry bristle brush. Right now I have one of the paint brushes I'd use to apply Mod Podge. I would advise using like a dry bristle paintbrush that you'd use for painting. They're just a little bit more vigorous and give you kind of what you're trying to accomplish here, which is to rub off all the excess foil flakes and make sure all of the foil flakes that are on the cup are completely flat onto the cup. So I definitely would have preferred to use a dry bristle brush, but I didn't have one on hand, so this paintbrush will do. So I'm going to completely brush that off and then set that aside so we can move to the next step. Alright, so now we're going to move into applying about 1 ml of epoxy onto the cup. Now, I haven't let my cup really sit more than probably an hour or so before applying the epoxy to the cup, and we're just going to put a very thin coat of epoxy on the cup so that we can add some glitter. I just felt like this cup definitely had a unique look with the metallic colors, but definitely was going to need some glitter. So to go along with the fall theme, we're going to be using some fall colors. So I have Burgundy Carnation from Makerflo Creations, Bozeman from Peachy Olive, Aslan from Peachy Olive, and the Swamp from Peachy Olive glitters. All these glitters I'll list in the description box below. So I'm going in first with Aslan, which is like a yellow gold metallic color. It's a really pretty kind of bold yellow that just speaks fall. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glitter kind of sparsely all over the cup. The goal right here is not to cover all of the gorgeous metallic foils underneath, but more or less to kind of brighten that up a little bit with some sparkle and adding some glitter. So now I'm going in with the Swamp, which is an orange metallic color, a beautiful orange color, reminds me of pumpkins in fall. And now I'm going in with Bozeman, which is kind of along the lines of like a bronze color, if you will. It is a really pretty color on its own, but I think adding it to these colors already on the cup, it just really made it pop, that bronze color. And then finally going in with Burgundy Carnation from Makerflo Creations, which is a red holographic fine color. It just was kind of a gorgeous red that I thought that would complement all of the other metallic colors beautifully. So I'm not really going in very generously in any one spot. I'm kind of just sparsely covering glitter in different spots because the idea here is to make this a peekaboo. So I want to be able to see all of the gorgeous glitters and metallic colors underneath the different peekaboos that we decide to put on top of this. So you can do as much glitter as you want. You could totally scrap the entire idea of putting the foils or the metallic colors under and just do a mix of color on top of the cup, and I think that it would look just as gorgeous if you're going for that fall look using similar colors to the ones I've chosen. So I'm going to tap off the excess glitter here and then let that dry for a couple hours before we go into coats of epoxy. Now that the cup has gotten 2 full coats of epoxy on my cup till smooth, I'm going to take that off the turner and then I am going to sand both the top and bottom rim, focusing on those 2 edges just to make sure that the cup is completely smooth, because we are going to be applying spray paint to the cup and we don't want any bumps or anything crazy underneath the spray paint to be able to show. So I'm then going to just spray my cup with rubbing alcohol, or you could take it inside to wash with just dish soap and water and clean this off so that we can get ready to apply the decals. Now that the cup is clean, we can go ahead and move on to decals. So the only decal that I had to purchase was the Fall is My Favorite Color image, and that image is from Etsy, I believe, and I will link that in the description below. What I did was I just took this image and plugged it into Design Space, made it the appropriate size that I wanted for my cup. I'll put measurements in the description, and then created an offset for that file. The offset was 0.111. And again, I'll link all these different things in the description box, so make sure you check that out if you're looking to recreate this cup. So then I just took 2 leaf images that I found from Cricut Design Space Images. They were free options for me to use, and those were the leaves that I decided to choose. So my leaves are about maybe 1 inch wide, I would say, and I made all of them the same size. I was going to do varying size, but I thought that one size would just be easiest, because in my head I did know that I was going to be adding some glitter that was going to have leaves in it, so that would give my dimension of different size leaves. So I'm just going to pick and choose where I feel that the decals look best around the cup, and these different pieces of leaves will then serve as my peekaboo. So I'm just going to finish applying all of the decals onto the cup in various spots. You can apply your decals wherever you choose to. I just kind of decided that I wanted a lot of my leaves to be in the back to cover that area so we could see some of that gorgeous glitter and not just the color that was going to be on top of the entire cup. So I'm going to finish applying these and then we'll move on. Now that my decals are applied, I'm going to take this outside and spray it with flat white spray paint. So I did apply 2 generous coats of flat white spray paint, and now we can move into the alcohol ink. So this is Ranger Alcohol Sepia, and this is a gorgeous brown color. So I'm using my dry bristle brush, and I am just putting a streak of the alcohol ink along the cup, and then dragging my dry bristle brush in a downward or upward motion. It's important that when you're trying to recreate a wood grain look that you are only going in up and down motions and you're not going side to side or any crazy motions, because that will definitely change the look of your overall cup. The idea of using the color and the dry bristle brush to recreate the wood grain is to make it look like the inside of a tree round. So if you cut a tree in half, kind of giving those lines and veins that you'd see inside the core of a tree, and that is kind of the look we're recreating with the alcohol ink. Wood grain is a very easy technique to accomplish, even for beginners. This was actually one of the very first techniques that I tried as a tumbler maker, and it really is a very easy technique to be able to accomplish. It is important though that you remember to only do downward or upward strokes and to not obviously do anything too crazy with your brush on top of the alcohol ink. So you're just going to continue to apply in streaks onto your cup. You can apply the alcohol ink on top of other pieces of alcohol ink, so don't worry about feeling like you're going to mess it up. It will rub some of the alcohol ink off, but it really does give the cup a little bit more dimension and more of that kind of wood grain style look. You're able to create kind of knots and different veins and different kind of dimension to what you'd expect to see on a real tree. So that's the part that I love about doing wood grain. So for the bottom, you try and do the exact same thing that you did with the sides that you did with the bottom. So again, going in only downward or upward strokes. So not trying to make any weird circles or anything like that, because that will change the look of your alcohol ink on top. And then once you feel like you've covered all of the white spray paint, you are good to go. I am going to let this completely sit for 24 hours. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I have never had to seal wood grain when I'm using alcohol inks to create a wood grain before, but I have heard that if you don't let it sit and trying to apply epoxy too soon, you do run the risk of the epoxy turning green, specifically just for brown spray paint. So that's just my tip to you. I always let it sit completely overnight before applying epoxy. And obviously in this case, because I'm doing a peekaboo, I'm just waiting until it's dry to the touch, keeping my gloves on so that I don't smudge it with any of the oils on my hands. But I'm gonna go ahead and start removing my removable vinyl from underneath so we can see all the gorgeous glitter and the foils underneath. So this process does take a little bit of time, and it is important that you do take your time, especially with your weeding tool. Those are sharp, and it does have a tendency to, if you slip, to scratch up your wood grain. Now wood grain is a little bit easy to fix. You could just go over that by putting a little bit of alcohol ink on top of your dry bristle brush and going back over that section, but be sure that you don't go over your opened section of peekaboo, because then you will stain the epoxy, and that is a little bit more difficult to get out. So I'm just going to speed this process up a little bit and just show you a little bit of me removing the decals, but the idea is to just take your time. This took me probably about 20 minutes or so just to remove the decals, and again, that is because I want to make sure I'm not scratching my wood grain or scratching any of the cup that I then have to try and repair later. Wow, look at all those gorgeous colors. So let's throw this back on the turner, and now I'm applying about 20 mLs of fast set epoxy here. So I'm just putting a very generous coat of epoxy on my cup, and then I'm just going to hit it with my torch to just pop any bubbles before we go into adding a little bit of extra bling to the top of this cup. So I'm going to be taking Leave Me Alone, which is a brand new color from my Aisha Creations. It is a gorgeous mix that has different colored leaf shapes and some holographic red glitter that just really, I feel like, was something I had to get on this cup. It's so funny because I actually just got this glitter probably right before I was concluding this video, and it just came at the perfect time. So in the medicine cup is that glitter, and I'm just taking my gloved hand and just sprinkling a little bit on the wood grain section in between the leaves and around the decal. I don't want too much glitter, but I definitely want it to be something that is noticeable. So I'm then going to go in after I've kind of put my glitter where I feel like it belongs. I'm gonna then just go in with my tweezers and just move some of the different glitter pieces around, making sure that it's not too chunky in places and that there aren't the little leaves on top of each other, and just kind of spread it out and make sure it looks pretty even throughout the cup. So once that is done, I'm going to let this spin until it's cured. So it'll probably take about 4 to 5 hours before it's dry to the touch, and then I can go in and add my decals. Okay, so my cup has been epoxied. I have let it dry for 24 hours, then applied 1 coat of epoxy, and now I'm going in with my decals. So I didn't do like a tutorial of Cricut because it really isn't very difficult, especially now that Cricut Design Space now has the offset feature. I didn't really feel like that was something that I needed to show, but if that is something you'd like to see, I will certainly include that in future tutorials. So I'm then just going to focus on the front decal first. So this is the Fall is My Favorite Color decal, and I'm going to apply this using the hinge method. So I'm going to cut just a small piece off of the backing in the back, and then adhere one side of the decal to one side of the cup. Then remove the backing and pull tautly to apply the remainder pieces of the decal. So you guys have seen me do this before in a few tutorials. It is probably the easiest way that I have found to apply decals, and it hasn't failed me yet. So after I get that decal on, I did also forget to mention that I am using a bronze colored vinyl. So this is the same like the gold metallic textured vinyl that I've used the last couple tutorials. This is just another version of that. It's the same thing, it's just a different color, and I am actually using Stronghold's Cricut brand transfer tape as opposed to the transfer tape that I usually use to apply my decals. It just helps the vinyl stick a little bit better to this vinyl. So now I'm going to go around and apply the offset to all of the leaves. So I did just do the offset at the 0.11 setting, again like I did for the front decal, and then I just sliced the original image on the offset to create just the outline of the leaves. Again, if this is something you need as far as the tutorial, I will be sure to include something similar to this in a future tutorial. So I'm just going to go and apply all of the leaf offsets around the cup. So what I end up doing is I do apply every single offset to the cup, and then I end up going back and deciding that it was too much bronze, it was too much decal, if you will. I don't even know if that's a word, if that's a thing, but I just felt like it looked too much, and I really did love the beautiful look of some of the leaves right on that wood grain. It just was such a unique look that I didn't want to lose with so much vinyl all over the cup. So I end up going back and removing the vinyl on just some of the leaves, not all of them. I do keep vinyl on a good majority of them, but I just felt like removing some of them would really give another look to the cup, and it just was so beautiful to have the glittered leaf look, if you will, on the peekaboo against that wood grain. There's just something about that I just couldn't take that away from every single leaf. So I'm going to apply the rest of the decals, then take the decals off, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to my next step, which is to apply a white decal on top of the bronze decal. Okay, so we're going to go over the original front decal with another decal. We're just going to, I printed the exact same decal, the same size, and I just printed it in white. So in hindsight, I definitely could have just gone over the original space with the white decal. There was just something about the bronze that it looked great against the wood grain, but on this front decal it just kind of looked hidden, and I wanted the words and the decal on the front to just be more prominent. So I'm creating just another decal that I'm going to slap on top of the other one and slightly offset it so that you can still see the vinyl that is underneath. So you can still see a little bit of that bronze vinyl when you're looking at the cup, but that the words are more prominent now that they are more white. So again, this is something you could totally skip and just go with a white decal. Don't feel like you have to copy from me, but I just felt like I wanted the decal to be more vibrant and more kind of stand out in your face, so I switched it up and added white, and I just felt like it did add overall a great look to the cup that I was trying to create. So I wanted to show you guys something that I do with my extra epoxy. So the extra epoxy that I had using this cup specifically, I added Diamond Magic to the front half of the cup, and to create kind of like a sparkly clear side, and on the other side I put a little bit of Leave Me Alone in the straw topper mold. So this is just a round mold that I have. It is very easy to put together. I just use some liquid fusion, which I usually use to apply my rhinestones to cups and to apply those two halves together. So then I printed a super small leaf to put on top, and this is just a super cute, fun, and easy straw topper mold that I have to go with the cup. So after my cup took 2 final coats of epoxy as usual to finish off this cup, and I just love how this turned out. I know I say this every single time, guys, but I absolutely love the style of this cup. The wood grain just adds a completely new dimension to these glitters, and I just love it. If you loved today's tutorial, feel free to give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you guys again next week.